Since her release, Imani has proven to be a very dominant force in the realm, rivaling other damage powerhouses like Leon and Cassie. Originally, all of her nerfs were focused into her dragon, which was already a relatively easy part of her kit to counter. This left her base kit feeling pretty powerful for quite some time, but with the latest update, Imani has taken some needed hits to one of her biggest strengths, her Frost Bomb. In case you don't know, Frost Bomb had its projectile speed lowered from 60 to 40, and Permafrost, the card that increased the 1.5 second route to 2.5 seconds, was reworked to give bonus projectile speed back to Frost Bomb. So from what I can tell, you need Permafrost at least a level 3 to get back up to the old Frost Bomb speed. It could also be 4, I can't exactly tell if it's 3 or 4. I run 3 because it feels the same to me personally. I know 5 is faster than before though, for sure. You could run 5 if you want to go crazy with the speed, but I don't think it's necessary. Basically, with this nerf, unless you plan to only use Frost Bomb at close range, you do need at least Permafrost 3 if you want to get any real distance with it. So you can undo that particular nerf, but it does take loadout points, and your route duration will always be 1.5 seconds. And yeah, when I say it takes a loadout points, it does take a less Permafrost points than you probably already had in your deck from last update, but hey. Having only a 1.5 second duration while still being strong without a doubt definitely doesn't feel incredibly overbearing. The enemy doesn't have an excess amount of time to kill you anymore. Their window is a lot smaller. It also affects the amount of Resil you arguably need. With Resil 2 against the old Permafrost 5, the route would go from 2.5 seconds to 1 second. After the nerf, Resil 2 puts the 1.5 seconds down to 0.6 seconds. And that is practically nothing. So it's a big difference. With the 2.5 seconds, the 1 second after Resil 2 is still quite a bit of time, so you would often still have to buy Resil 3. But with the 1.5 second duration, you could probably stop at Resil 2 and be fine, because 0.6 seconds isn't really a lot of time to net a kill unless you get heavily team shot. I also want to point out that the Frost Bomb nerfs also indirectly affect Splitting Ice. One of the biggest reasons Splitting Ice has been so strong is because you could root people for 2.5 seconds and get off 3 easy hits on somebody, and in turn hit anyone around them who is rooted as well. For less damage of course, but still good damage. Now however, you're only getting off 1 hit. You can sorta get off 2 if you're fast enough, before they start moving that is. It is a 1.5 second route and it does take 1.6 seconds to fire 2 Frost Bolts, unless you have full mana. Of course, Splitting Ice is still a powerful talent on its own, but the synergy with Frost Bomb definitely helped make it really over the top, and now that synergy has been brought down. So this definitely helps to lessen the gap between the fire and ice stances. I also want to talk about that gap in a minute. But first I want to say that Imani is still in a very solid spot after her nerfs. Again, less powerful but still powerful, just not in an overbearing way. I know in Ranked, Imani was a popular ban for some. I do think with these nerfs you don't have as much of a reason to ban her. At least not over Cassie when it comes to DPS characters, because I want to confidently say that after the Imani and Leon nerfs, Cassie is the best of the 3 now, whereas before they were arguably equals. Not saying Imani is a bad ban all the time, but there are definitely things more worthy of a ban is all I'm saying. Like tanks. Tanks are the real powerhouses of this game. Going back to the gap between the 2 stances, Ice is probably still better. It's easier to use, feels more natural, has way less of a margin for error, both for primary attacks and right clicks, also has a better talent tied to it. I don't really agree with the notion that Ice is flat out better all the time no matter what though. I do think at long range, Fire is more reliable. The hitbox on it is massive, so it's easier to hit at a distance. And you can even hit people behind walls with it pretty reliably. That's not something I see a lot of people take advantage of. There's probably a lot of people that wish I didn't say that because now it'll probably happen a bit more. Sorry. Inferno Cannon is also a fantastic tank melter. You can deal well over 3,000 damage with it. I want to say close to 4,000. But it is of course very risky. Before Wrecker comes online, you can basically use it for free whenever your tank puts a barrier up though. The only thing I really find bad about the fire stance is that it drops your FPS when you charge it, a lot like Atlas and Shaolin do. I know it doesn't do it for everyone, but it does for plenty of people. The FPS drops are the only reason why I don't personally use fire stance more often, and in turn the only reason there isn't more fire stance footage in this video. Really hard to record stuff when your FPS is dropping. So I don't really think the fire stance itself needs buffs to bring it up to ice stance's level. I do think it could use a fix to the FPS bug, and some quality of life adjustments as well. When your Inferno Cannon ends, your hands are still up for a bit even though you're done firing it. That could probably be cut off so you can get out of it when it actually ends. Another thing is messing with how mana feels with the stance. So basically with the fire stance, you get into this rhythm, right? Charge, fire, then bam, there's an instant fire in there that completely breaks that rhythm. You really have to pay attention to that so you don't waste it. I bet a lot of you waste it because you're set into that rhythm. I know I definitely do. With ice, it's pew, pew, bam, 2 for 1, but it's still like a normal pew. So I do think that something needs to be done with how mana works with fire so it feels better. I don't know exactly what, but I think the instant fire thing probably has to become something else for that particular stance, so it doesn't break that rhythm anymore. Also, you guys know how in the ice stance, the bolts come from the hand they fire from, so they can clip on walls easier? Well, Fireball is like that too. Even though it does always look like it's firing from the right hand, it alternates like ice does, so you can clip without even expecting to. With ice, you know why it's happening because you can see why. With fire, you can't see why. It just happens. So that's something that can really use a fix as well. Both weapons honestly could because clipping feels really bad. Outside of all that, I feel a big reason that Splitting Ice feels so powerful is because the other talents don't feel powerful. At all. Pyromania is not a very good talent. It's okay, but it's not all that great. You get an AoE hit every so often, but how often are you gonna hit multiple people with it? You could save it until you can, but that could be a lot of time you spend not dealing any damage. So your main use for it would be to hit the floor or the wall when you're not positive you can hit the person. Not very talent worthy in my opinion. Also, Mana Rift, again, not very good. It's a cool idea, it definitely adds something new to the character and I really do like that, but it promotes you standing still like a turret and that's not very fun or engaging, on top of it of course not being very good. I feel like it'd be better if Mana Rift was replaced by a talent that promotes stance swapping. So you have Splitting Ice for people who only want to use ice, Pyromania for people who only want to use fire, and a third talent for people who like using both equally. That way you have every possible playstyle for Imani accommodated. Now what would that talent be? I don't know. Maybe you could take off the cooldown of your stance swap entirely. I know the cooldown just got reduced from 10 to 8 seconds, and with the card that lowers it even further, you can get it down to 3 seconds. But this talent could take it away completely so you don't have the cooldown at all, and that way you don't have to use the card at all and free up loadout points. The talent could even go a step further and make swapping feel more fluid so you can combo parts of the 2 different kits together easier. I think that sounds pretty cool. The end goal would of course be to get a talent that promotes stance swapping, whatever that may be. I do feel like if stuff like this was done to Imani, the character would feel a lot more balanced overall and a lot more complete. The nerfs to her and Leon definitely helped bring them more in line with other DPS characters, but they're still both good and powerful characters. And yeah, they'll probably still be picked more than most DPS characters, but that's because characters like Imani, Leon, and Cassie, not saying Cassie doesn't need a nerf because Cassie is the only one of the 3 to not receive one, are very well rounded and do a lot of different things well, so they fit into more situations than others. That's not a bad thing. It's okay to have characters that do a lot of things well, just like it's okay to have characters like Bomb King who do only a few things, but do them really, really well. How many other DPS characters can evaporate a tank like Chain Reaction BK can? How many other characters can spread AoE damage and cauterize like BK can? There are other blasters, yeah, but BK can detonate his AoE damage wherever he wants. He doesn't have to wait to hit something to do it. He's definitely the best at doing those select things. Then with Imani, for example, good at dueling, good range, good crowd control, good movement, good ult. But there's nothing that somebody can say Imani is best at anymore. Last update, you could say that Imani had the best CC out of all the DPSs, while also being good at multiple different things. With the nerfs, that's not really the case anymore. You could argue that it still is, but once the bug fix comes in that fixes Frostbomb being able to fly through barriers, that CC is gonna have plenty of counterplay to it. But yeah, I feel like improving these weaker aspects of Imani is the best call now that Ice Stance has been brought down, instead of layering more nerfs onto Imani. Because normally, whenever you layer nerf after nerf onto a character, it doesn't go well. Look at Furia. Very powerful release. Then nerf after nerf came, and Furia became pretty bad until they started to undo some of them. Nobody likes seeing that. It's definitely not something that Imani should have to suffer through as well. I'd love to strive for characters to be more like Maeve in the sense that they're good, powerful characters that aren't too over the top and have multiple playstyles and viable talents. All 3 of Maeve's talents give her different and viable playstyles. Only Street Justice and Cat Burglar are viable competitively, but outside of that, if you're good at it, Rogue's Gambit is viable. It takes a lot more work though, and that's fine I suppose. Seeing every talent be viable competitively for a character does sound pretty unrealistic. What really matters is they're all viable in everyday play. And yeah, I wanted to take this video to talk about Imani, how much her nerfs affect her, and where the character could go from here. Let me know how you guys feel about Imani in the comments below. And that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye.